Jesus warned us, when you see this sign, it's already too late. The final sign before Jesus' return. What if I told you there's one final sign, just one, that Jesus said would show us it's too late? Not almost there. Not getting close. Too late. You might be thinking, well, I'd better know what that sign is. You're right. You do need to know, because once it happens, there won't be time left to prepare. When the disciples finally got Jesus alone, away from the noise, away from the crowds, they asked him something they didn't dare say in public. They were desperate to know. What are the signs? How will we know the end is near? And this time, Jesus didn't answer with a parable. He looked them in the eye and gave them a direct, clear response. No riddles, no mysteries, just straight truth. But what he said next shocked them. And if you're paying attention, it should shake us too. Sign 1. Natural disasters in the world. Yes, in Revelation, Jesus gives a long, intense vision of the end of days. But here on the Mount of Olives, he gives a fast, focused rundown, a warning list, not just for them, but for us. Because what if the signs he gave have already started? What if some of them are already happening right now? Matthew chapter 24 reads, Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives. His disciples came to him privately and said, Tell us, when will all this happen? What sign will signal your return and the end of the world? Jesus told them, Don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name claiming I am the Messiah. They will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world. But all this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. Now listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you might flip everything you thought you knew about the end times. Jesus gave us 4 signs, 4 specific markers that point to his return. But here's the part most people miss. After the 4th sign comes one final sign that is greater than them all. The first sign? Disasters in the world. Jesus said there would be wars, famines, and earthquakes. And that's happening, right? It's been happening for thousands of years. But look closer. These disasters aren't just continuing, they're intensifying. The earth is groaning, nations are trembling, and humanity feels like it's holding its breath. But here's the twist most people miss. That's only the first sign, and it's not even the most important. Wars have always existed. Empires have risen and fallen since the beginning of time. Famines have plagued civilizations. Earthquakes have shaken cities to the ground. So why would Jesus mention these as signs of the end? Because he's not talking about isolated events. He's talking about a pattern. He's talking about escalation. He's talking about intensity. These are birth pains. And anyone who has witnessed childbirth knows this. The closer you get to delivery, the stronger the contractions become. They don't stay the same. They increase in frequency and power. That's what Jesus is describing here. A world in labor. A creation groaning under the weight of sin, moving toward a climax. We see wars spreading across continents. We see food shortages affecting entire nations. We see the ground itself trembling beneath our feet with increasing regularity. These aren't random occurrences. They're orchestrated warnings from a God who is giving humanity every chance to wake up and turn back to him. But most people don't see it that way. They explain it away. They call it climate change, political instability, or natural cycles. They refuse to see the hand of God in the shaking of the earth. And that's exactly what Jesus warned about. He said, "Don't be deceived. Don't let anyone mislead you, because the world will try to explain away the very signs God is giving." So yes, the first sign is unfolding right now before our eyes. The world is groaning, and this is only the beginning. Sign 2. Collapse inside the church. Something is happening inside the church. This is where things get personal. Jesus didn't just talk about chaos in the world. He warned about collapse inside the church. And just like the first sign had 3 parts, this one does too. Brace yourself. First, hatred. Not rejection. Not criticism. Hatred. Matthew chapter 24, verse 9. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. Jesus said this would happen. Worldwide, Christianity will become offensive, dangerous, targeted. And we're watching that hostility rise right now. In some parts of the world, believers are arrested for praying in public. In other places, churches are being shut down. Christian business owners are being sued for standing by their convictions. The message is clear. If you follow Jesus, you are a problem. But it's not just external persecution, it's cultural rejection. The world used to tolerate Christianity. Now it openly mocks it. The values we hold, the truths we proclaim, the God we serve, all of it is being labeled as hateful, intolerant, and outdated. And this is exactly what Jesus said would happen. You will be hated by all nations because of me. Second, abandonment. Jesus said many will fall away. The love of most will grow cold. The church will shrink, not in spirit, but in number. People who were once sitting in pews will disappear. They'll walk away. Why? Because true faith is being tested, shaken, refined. When persecution comes, when the cost of following Jesus gets too high, many will choose comfort over conviction. They'll choose safety over surrender. And they'll abandon the faith they once claimed to hold. We're already seeing this happen. Churches that once preached the gospel are now preaching tolerance and compromise. Denominations that used to stand on Scripture are now bending to cultural pressure. Believers who once gathered faithfully are now drifting away, distracted by the cares of this world. The love of most is growing cold, and it's heartbreaking, but it's also prophesied. Third, mission. Here's the surprise. Jesus says in the midst of all this, the gospel will be preached to every nation. How can a smaller church have a louder voice? Because a smaller, purified church, stripped of comfort and pride, becomes powerful, focused, undeniable. The world may try to silence it, but it will still speak. And here's where deception enters the story. Jesus warns of false prophets, and they won't look like wolves. They'll sound like friends. Their message? Don't worry. Everything's fine. Peace is coming. Revival is here. The church is in good hands. But Jesus says, that's a lie. They promise comfort when God is calling us to endurance. They promise peace when Jesus is preparing us for persecution. They tell us what we want to hear instead of what we need to hear. And here's the most terrifying part. These false prophets may be the reason many fall away. They'll twist the truth, distort the gospel, and cause people to leave when things get hard. So, what do? What does Jesus say to us? Those still standing, still listening, still holding on? He says this, "Whoever endures to the end shall be saved," but endurance for what's coming next. Because the third sign doesn't just shake the world, it marks the moment when time runs out. Sign 3. Jerusalem's crisis and the abomination of desolation. Now we come to the sign that marks the absolute point of no return. Geographically specific, historically unprecedented. When this third sign appears, Jesus said the final countdown will have begun, and everything that follows will be the most intense period of suffering in human history. In Matthew chapter 24, verses 15 through 22, Jesus said, "Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house. And let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath. For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be." Notice Jesus' tone. He becomes urgent, almost frantic. Don't pack. Don't gather belongings. Just run for your lives. Why such extreme urgency? Because this sign marks the moment when time runs out. To understand what Jesus is referring to, we go back to the prophet Daniel, who described this event in stunning detail over 500 years before Jesus was born. And Daniel didn't mention this just once. He described this abomination 3 times. Daniel chapter 11, verse 31. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. Daniel chapter 12, verse 11. 3 separate visions, 3 warnings. Why? Because this event is the hinge point of all human history. Daniel saw a vision of a future ruler who would emerge on the world stage as a peacemaker and problem solver. This person, the Antichrist, the man of lawlessness, the beast, will make a 7-year covenant with Israel and many nations. For the first 3.5 years, he'll appear to be the greatest leader in human history. He'll solve international conflicts, bring peace to the Middle East, enable global prosperity, and allow the Jews to rebuild their temple. But at the midpoint of those 7 years, he'll reveal his true nature. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, the abomination of desolation." This leader enters the rebuilt temple in Jerusalem, declares himself to be God, and demands worship from all humanity. Not metaphorical. Literal person, literal place, literal blasphemy. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. "Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." This prophecy requires 3 conditions that didn't exist for most of the last 2,000 years. First, the temple must exist. When Jesus spoke, the second temple stood. In 70 AD, the Romans destroyed it. For nearly 2,000 years, no temple. Today, preparations are being made. Second, Jerusalem must be under Jewish control. For 2,000 years, Gentile powers controlled it. Romans, Muslims, Ottomans, British. But in 1967, during the Six-Day War, Israel regained control for the first time since 70 AD. A prophetic milestone. Third, a world leader with unprecedented influence. Someone trusted by Israelis, Palestinians, Arab nations, European powers, and the United States simultaneously. Throughout most of history, impossible. Today, global communication and interconnected economies make such influence possible for the first time. Here's what makes this so shocking. It won't appear evil when it happens. For 3.5 years, the Antichrist will be the most popular, successful, admired leader in human history. Israel's greatest protector becomes their greatest persecutor. The leader who enabled temple worship demands to be worshipped in the temple. The man who brought peace turns Jerusalem into the center of global conflict. He doesn't claim to be a god. He claims to be God. Ultimate divine authority demanding worship from all humanity. And he does this in the most sacred space in Judaism, the Holy of Holies, the ultimate desecration. When this happens, Jesus said, "Run." Why such urgency? Because the abomination of desolation triggers what Jesus called Great Tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time. No, nor ever shall be. Worse than every previous catastrophe combined. Worse than the flood. Worse than Sodom. Worse than any war, famine, plague, or natural disaster ever. And it will be global. Revelation chapter 13, verse 7. The beast will be given power over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. Here's the timeline. The abomination marks the midpoint of the final 7 years. Once this occurs, exactly 3.5 years remain until Christ's return. Not approximately. Exactly. When you see this sign, you'll know precisely how much time is left. The clock is counting down day by day. But here's what's sobering. By the time this sign appears, it will be too late for most people to change their eternal destiny. The decisions that determine where people spend eternity will have been made before the abomination occurs. This doesn't just mark the midpoint of tribulation. It marks the point where human history reaches its climax. Everything since the fall has been building toward this moment when the ultimate rebellion against God takes place in the ultimate sacred space. Satan's final desperate attempt to claim the worship that belongs to God alone. But there's one final sign that will be impossible to miss, because it will be visible to every person on earth simultaneously. Sign 4. Cosmic collapse. There won't be time to argue or analyze or speculate because the lights go out. All of them. The sun, gone. The stars fall like dead leaves. The moon is no longer shining. No more natural light. Just darkness. And then a sudden flash like lightning tearing across the sky. The Bible doesn't whisper about this moment. It shouts it. Isaiah saw the heavens rolled up like a scroll. Stars falling like withered leaves. The universe itself is collapsing. Can you imagine stepping outside to see nothing? No moonlight, no stars, just stillness, just shadow. And then, boom, a brilliant light explodes across the sky. Not from the sun, not from the moon, from Him. And in that moment, Christians will know. This is it. Not a drill, not another birth pain. This is the return. God flips the switch off in the heavens to set the stage for His Son's re-entry. Not hidden, not symbolic, but visible, violent, unmistakable. His judgment will be swift, final, and inescapable. Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Isaiah chapter 13 confirms it. Behold, the day of the Lord comes, cruel with both wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and He will destroy its sinners from it. For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The sun will be darkened in its going forth, and the moon will not cause its light to shine. This isn't poetic language. This is cosmic collapse. The entire order of creation unraveling. The sun dark, the moon gone, the stars blotted out. Why? Because something greater, someone greater, is about to appear. Isaiah and Jesus speak the same exact language. A world plunged into darkness moments before the King arrives. This day, the day of the Lord, isn't some far-off idea. It's the turning point of all human history. Everything leads to this. The rise of nations, the fall of empires, every prophecy, every promise, It all points to this one moment when God comes to judge evil, rescue his people, and make all things right. The signs are lining up. The world is shaking. Hearts are stirring. Even people who don't believe in the Bible are saying something feels off. Could it be because this moment is closer than we think? Here's the real question. Are we ready? Because this is not the time to sleep through history. This is the time to wake up, to open our eyes, to see what Isaiah saw, to understand what Jesus said, because it's happening. And once it begins, there's no hitting pause. And if you think the Lord's return means immediate peace and comfort, hold on, because before peace, there's fire. Consequences and big picture. Judgment and restoration. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 66, verses 15 through 16. For behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword the Lord will judge all flesh. That's intense. That's not the soft, glowing Jesus we see in paintings. That's the King of Heaven arriving in righteous fire. So let's ask a question we don't ask enough. Why fire? Why judgment? Why not just skip to peace? Because fire purifies. It burns away corruption. It cleanses what's filthy. It removes what's decayed so something new can live. Before the world can be made new, it must be cleansed. Now, I know that sounds scary, and for many, it will be. But here's the hope. For those who belong to the Lord, this isn't the end. This is the beginning. Because after the fire, after the judgment, after the shaking, comes something more beautiful than we've ever imagined. Isaiah chapter 65, verse 17 says, For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered or come to mind. God is going to make everything new. But first, he's going to burn away everything that's evil, everything that's wrong. It's like a forest fire that clears the land so that beautiful new growth can come. This is not just about fire. It's about God keeping his promise, a promise to heal the world and bring true peace. And Isaiah saw it all before it ever happened. Yes, there is fire. Yes, there is judgment. But for those who love God, there is also joy, because his return means that the world will be set right. And that's the greatest promise of all. We've seen the warning. We've heard about the judgment. But now Isaiah gives us something that lifts our hearts. Even after everything falls apart, even when the world is shaken, Isaiah sees a future filled with light. Isaiah chapter 24, verse 23 says, Then the moon will be disgraced and the sun ashamed, for the Lord of hosts will reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and before his elders gloriously. Did you catch that? Isaiah says the moon and sun, the brightest things we know, will pale in comparison to God's glory. And where will God reign? Jerusalem. Right where so much of the world's attention is today. This tells us something amazing. Even though judgment comes, it's not the end of the story. God wins. His light shines. His kingdom comes. He doesn't just destroy, he restores, he rules with love, he brings peace. Now let me ask you, do you want to be part of that kingdom? Because it's not just for some people far away. It's for you. The Bible says in Romans chapter 10, verse 13, For whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. That's hope. That's truth. That's what Isaiah's prophecy leads to. A chance to know God and be safe under his rule. Then he comes on the clouds, back to planet Earth, and we meet him. We are not meeting in an earthly stadium because there isn't one large enough to accommodate such a large crowd. We'll reach him in the air, and that'll suffice. Isn't that a fantastic prospect? At this point, history as we know it is over. The battles have been fought. The judgments have fallen. The enemies of God have been crushed. And now John turns the page. What he sees next isn't just a prophecy. It's a glimpse of forever. We're no longer talking about what will happen on this earth. We're stepping into what comes after. Eternity. Something breathtaking is about to unfold. John says in Revelation chapter 21, "And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God." Can you picture that? A city not built by men, not born from bricks and mortar, but designed by God Himself, coming down from heaven. And it doesn't stop there. Then John hears a loud voice from the throne saying, "See, the tabernacle of God is among men. He will live among them. They will be His people, and God Himself will be with them. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes." Pause for a moment. Let that hit you. No more pain, no more sorrow, no more death, no more crying. Every disappointment you've carried, every moment you felt broken, every tear you cried in secret, wiped away forever. The old order of things, gone. A city unlike anything the world has ever known, descending from heaven, shining with the glory of God, the New Jerusalem. Its brilliance is like a precious gem, clear, radiant, alive with divine light. This isn't fantasy. This isn't a myth. This is the future. And here's what might be even more breathtaking. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. No sun, no moon, no night. God Himself lights up eternity. And unlike now, where darkness comes every evening and rest is required, there we'll never tire, never sleep, never feel fear when night falls, because it never will. And the nations, they'll bring their glory into this city. Kings, peoples, cultures, each honoring the Lamb in the way they were created to do. And still one more line cuts deep. Nothing impure will ever enter it, nor will anyone who does what is shameful or deceitful. This is it. This is the hope. This is the promise. After the fire, after the judgment, after the shaking, God creates something so beautiful, so perfect, so eternal, that every moment of suffering on this earth will fade in comparison. Resolution and call to action. Then Jesus gives a simple statement about a fig tree. He says, "Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near." Jesus is telling us that when you notice all these events happen, you know that we are there. This isn't an allegory. It's a straightforward observation. You see the fig tree blooming, you know summer is coming. In the same way, when you see these 4 signs, you know His return is near. Not a guess, not a maybe. You know. When the Son of Man returns, it will be like it was in Noah's day. In those days before the flood, the people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up to the time Noah entered his boat. People didn't realize what was going to happen until the flood came and swept them all away. That is the way it will be when the Son of Man comes. Life was normal, business as usual, and they had every reason to think tomorrow would be just like today. But Noah knew. Noah saw the signs. Noah prepared. And when the flood came, only those inside the ark survived. Jesus says 2 men will be working together in the field. One will be taken, the other left. 2 women will be grinding flour at the mill. One will be taken, the other left. So you too must keep watch, for you don't know what day your Lord is coming. You must be ready all the time, for the Son of Man will come when least expected. A faithful servant is one to whom the master can give responsibility. If the master returns and finds that the servant has done a good job, there will be a reward. The master will put that servant in charge of all he owns. But what if the servant is evil and thinks, "My master won't be back for a while," and he begins beating the other servants, partying, and getting drunk? The master will return unannounced and unexpected, and he will assign him a place with the hypocrites. In that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now Jesus tells 3 parables, each one with the same warning. Be ready. Stay faithful. Don't assume you have more time. 10 bridesmaids waiting for the bridegroom. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. All 10 had lamps, but only 5 brought extra oil. The foolish ones thought they had enough. They didn't plan for a long wait. And when the bridegroom was delayed, their lamps began to go out. Midnight came. A cry rang out. The bridegroom is here. The wise virgins trimmed their lamps, and their lights burned bright. But the foolish ones panicked. Their lamps were going out. They ran to buy more oil. And while they were gone, the bridegroom arrived. The door was shut. And when the foolish virgins finally returned, they knocked and cried out, "Lord, Lord, open the door!" But he answered, "I don't know you. This isn't about oil. It's about readiness." The wise virgins didn't just start well, they endured. They stayed ready even when the bridegroom was delayed. The foolish virgins looked the part, but when the moment came, it was too late. The door was shut. Then the parable of the talents. A master entrusts servants with money before leaving. 2 servants invest what they're given and double it. 1 servant buries his out of fear. When the master returns, the faithful servants are rewarded. "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord." But the fearful servant is cast into darkness. This isn't about money. It's about faithfulness. What will we do with what God has given us? Finally, the sheep and the goats. When the Son of Man comes, he will separate people as a shepherd separates sheep from goats. The basis? How they treated his followers. The king will say to the sheep, "I was hungry and you fed me. I was a stranger and you welcomed me." And they'll say, "Lord, when?" And he'll reply, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." To the goats he'll say, "I was hungry, and you gave me nothing. I was in need, and you ignored me." And they'll protest, "Lord, when did we see you in need?" And he'll answer, "Whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me." How we treat Christ's followers reveals our heart toward Christ himself. Mark chapter 13, verse 32. No one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Notice one word appears in all 3 parables. The master was returning after a long time. The bridegroom was a long time coming. The one who gave the talents was gone for a long time. He is looking for faithfulness during the long delay, not excitement at the beginning. Faithfulness when the wait is long. And when he returns, he will say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord." The church has a task to complete before Jesus can come back. Matthew chapter 24, verse 14 reads, "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." Jesus said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." The signs are already in motion. The world is groaning. The church is being refined. Jerusalem is the center of attention. And one day soon, the lights will go out, and every eye will see him. The King is coming, not as a baby in a manger, not as a suffering servant, but as the conquering King, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop him. Subscribe for the next video. What happens in the 7 years before the final sign? Comment below. Which sign do you see most clearly today? Like and share to spread the warning. The King is coming, and nothing can stop him.